and agriculture, we must maintain a buffer of reserves to cushion essential imports such as fuel. Furthermore, the monetary policy introduced a new foreign exchange trading platform under the willing buyer, willing seller arrangement. This platform, relying on anonymous algorithm order matching, generates a real-time reference rate, and if implemented well, can remove perceptions of central bank interference. It encourages businesses and individuals to use formal banking channels, reducing reliance on the parallel market. For this policy to succeed, Madam Speaker, the RBZ must ensure adequate and consistent foreign currency supply. Madam Speaker, another commendable measure is the enhanced Know Your Customer requirements for mobile network operators. We have witnessed fraud, scams, and ghost wallets undermining customer trust. By mandating screening of all mobile wallets in collaboration with the Civil Registry, and by recording nano loans on commercial bank balance sheets, the RBZ is curbing unregulated money creation. This protects the stability of ZIG and prevents inflationary pressures. Finally, Madam Speaker, there is widespread concern regarding the transition to monocurrency. Statutory Instrument 218 of 2023 limited the life of the multi-currency regime to a date. Yet stakeholders rightly argue that the transition should be conditions-based, not time-bound. Repealing Section 11, subsection 2A of the Exchange Control Act and aligning legislation with policy announcement will enhance and ensure consistency. Transition must be smooth, based on confidence, and anchored on measurable benchmarks such as single-digit inflation, adequate reserves, and exchange rate stability. I so submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Khasayo. Any further debate? Honorable Kangausaru.
Madam Speaker, Ma'am, Honorable Kangausaru is coming, but is coming.
Honorable Mukomberi.
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity granted. I want to also add my voice on the motion of the report from the Budget and Finance Committee pertaining to the monetary policy statement as was presented by the RBZ Governor in February 2026. Madam Speaker, Ma'am, the 2026 monetary policy statement as was presented by the Governor has got more positive indicators than negative to the economy of Zimbabwe. Madam Speaker, central to the monetary policy statement is the ZIG currency, which the RBZ governor has reiterated that it has improved in circulation, pointing out that 21 billion ZIG is now in circulation. This is a clear indication that confidence is improving on the ZIG currency, which is a key fundamental feature to enhance stability of the local currency. And it creates a clear roadmap for monocurrency as we are increasing the volume of transactions in local currency gradually. The RBZ governor indicated a key precautionary measure, Honorable Speaker, Ma'am, when he highlighted that RBZ will continue aligning money supply growth as the volume of transaction in local currency is increasing. It means money supply growth is being evident. But the RBZ governor gave a precautionary measure to say they will continue aligning money supply growth with the real economic activity. And to this end, Madam Speaker, ma'am, there is a shift from a strictly tight monetary policy stance to a prudent stance, though it is a tight monetary stance. During the unpacking of the monetary policy statement, the RBZ governor also introduced or launched the Big Five upgraded ZIG notes. This is also a key initiative to boost confidence, improved portability of the ZIG currency through the introduction of new bigger notes. It was indicated in the monetary policy statement that money supply growth shall be monitored, thereby ensuring that liquidity conditions, because as the notes are being introduced, it means money supply is also subject to increase if allowed to freely circulate. But the RBZ governor said money supply growth shall be monitored, thereby ensuring that liquidity conditions remain consistent with the inflation objective of preserving ZIG stability and ensuring sustainable economic growth. In the monetary policy statement, the RBZ governor indicated that the Reserve Bank will enhance coordination with the fiscal authorities to ensure that monetary and fiscal policies remain mutually reinforcing. So the coordination or the cohesion of the monetary policy and fiscal policy is a key fundamental to enhance macroeconomic growth and also arresting inflation, thus paying a special attention to avoid macroeconomic policies trade-off. To this end, the monetary policy statement aims to deepen the use of the local currency and consolidate macroeconomic stability in the economy, thereby aligning with macroeconomic objectives. This implies that through maintaining a prudent monetary policy stance, prices are durably entrenched and the currency and exchange rate stability is enhanced, but without compromising economic growth. Madam Speaker, ma'am, allow me also to highlight a key positive or a key benefit that was also observed in the monetary policy statement, that of attaining a single-digit annual inflation that was achieved and hovering around 4%, which was recorded in January, and with the month-on-month inflation rate recorded close to zero in January and averaging 0.4% in 2025. This alone is a key indicator of great work being done by the monetary authority, by the RBZ in trying to curb inflation. And it is a key fundamental, or is a key factor that supports economic growth as it creates a conducive environment for investment, for capital flows to regions where it feels comfortable. And in an inflationary stable environment, there is a lot of investment. Honorable Speaker, ma'am, allow me to highlight one key element that needs attention, that the policy rate was maintained at 35%, being an interest rate of 35%, but the inflation rate now being contained to levels around 4%, single digit. This disparity between the two rates is too big to support economic growth. It is key that there is low inflation, but also there is need to also adjust interest rates gradually, not just a sudden shift or an abrupt shift from 35% going to downwards, but a gradual downward adjustment. We will be also encouraging investment as high interest rates result in high cost of capital, and most of the investments are funded through borrowed funds. So in such a case, high finance costs would discourage investment. So this has got a likely chance of discouraging investment and misaligning with the macroeconomic goal of economic growth with a target of 5% in the current year. Honorable Speaker, ma'am, with these words, I want to submit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Mukomberi. Honorable Maposa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Madam. Good afternoon. I also rise to add my voice. I rise in support of the report of the committee, of the portfolio committee of the, on budget finance and investment promotion on 2026 monetary policy review statement. And I wish to focus particularly on the issue of interest rates and the broad impact that they can carry for productivity, investment, industry and growth and economic recovery. Honorable Speaker, Madam, the committee correctly observed that while inflation has significantly declined to single digit, the prevailing policy rates of 35% remaining excessively high relatively to correct in inflation. Honorable Speaker, Madam, from economic standpoint of excessively high borrowing cost, suppress private sector expansion, discourage long-term capital formation and weaken the productivity of the economy. No economy can industrialize sustainable when the cost of capital remains prohibited, expensive for manufacturers, farmers and emerging businesses. If we are serious about the building and the productivity and competitive economy, the cost of money must reflect the reality of declining inflation, not the fears of crisis we have already begun to leave behind. Honorable Speaker, Madam, one of the most fundamental principles of the economic is that investments respond to confidence, predictability and affordable of credit. When lending rates remains between 40 to 47% and highlighted by the committee, as highlighted by the committee, productivity sector invisible shift from expansion to survival mode. Honorable Speaker, Madam, the result is reduced. Industrial productivity is constrained, job creation and slower economic circulation. Monetary stability is indeed important, but stability must stimulate translation into real economic activity. A stable currency without productivity expands risk, creating a stagnant economy. Honorable Speaker, Madam, one with low inflation but limited growth momentum. It is therefore economic prudent for the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe to gradually recalibrate interest rates in line with the declining inflation so that industry can access affordable finance for retooling, innovation, and value addition. Honorable Speaker, Madam, the goal of monetary policy must not only be to stabilize but to be the unlocking the productivity potential of this economy. Honorable Speaker, Madam, I commend His Excellency the President Dr. Mnangagwa for the broad economic reform trajectory that has brought Zimbabwe to a point where inflation has significantly declined and exchange rate stability has improved. The fact that has moved from inflation levels about 95% to a single-digit inflation within a relatively short period is a demonstration of policy decline and economic resolve that deserve acknowledgement in this House, Honorable Speaker, Madam. Equally commendable is the government's commitment to fiscalize consolidation, financial sector reforms, and the open of business mantra. All of which continue to restore confidence within the economy, Honorable Speaker, Madam. These reforms have laid a solid stability foundation. The task that lies before this country is to evolve from the stability to acceleration production, industrialize, competitive nation, and broad-based economy that reaches every Zimbabwean. Honorable Speaker, Madam. As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, Madam, the next phase of Zimbabwe's economic journey must prioritize productivity sector, financing economic transformation cannot occur through consumption alone. It must be driven by investments, industrialize and sustain productivity growth. The committee recommendation for the gradual reduction of the policy rate is therefore not merely a financial adjustment. It is an economic growth strategy. We must create an environment where business can borrow money which is affordable, expand their operations and employ our own citizens and grow our exports. Honorable Speaker, Madam, sustainable economic stability is achieved not only controlling inflation, but building an economy that produces, competes, and creates shared prosperity of all its people. That is the economy Zimbabwe deserves. This is an economy this Parliament must fight for. Therefore, full and unnecessary support the report and its recommendation, and urge this Honorable House to do the same. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, ma'am, with all this. Thank you.
Honorable Maposa, Honorable Kangausaru.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, ma'am, and greetings from Uruguay. I rise to debate on the report of Portfolio Committee on Budget, Finance, and Investment Promotion on the 2026 Monetary Policy Review Statement. Allow me, Madam Speaker, to comment the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe and the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion for maintaining a policy direction that seeks to preserve macroeconomic stability, tame inflation, and strengthen confidence in the financial sector. The notable decline in the inflation and the relatively stability in the exchange rate are clear indication, Madam Speaker, that fiscal and monetary authorities are making commendable progress towards restoring economic predictability. Madam Speaker, ma'am, while this positive gain deserves recognition, it is equally important for this House to integrate areas that still require refinement in order to ensure that economic stability translates into meaningful growth, industrial productivity, and improve livelihood of our people. First issue relates to the prevailing high interest rates. The committee observed that the bank policy rates remains at 35% despite inflation having a significant decline to around 4%. The situation has resulted in commercial lending rates ranging between 40 to 47%, making borrowing prohibitively expensive for businesses. Madam Speaker, ma'am, productive sectors such as manufacturing, agriculture, and mining require affordable capital in order to expand operations, modernize equipment, and create employment opportunities. When the cost of borrowing becomes excessively high, industries struggle to access working capital, production slows down, and investment confidence is weakened. Small and medium enterprises, which are the backbone of domestic commerce and employment creation, are the most affected because they depend on bank financing to sustain operations. Therefore, Madam Speaker, while maintaining caution against inflationary pressures, there is a need for gradual and carefully managed reduction of interest rates in line with prevailing macroeconomic fundamentals. Economic stability should not merely exist in statistics, but must also stimulate productivity, industrial growth, and employment creation. Madam Speaker, secondly, the second issue concerns the proposed transition from the multi-currency system to mono-currency regime by 2030. Stakeholders strongly emphasize that such a transition must be condition-based rather than strictly time-bound. The success of any national currency is fundamental anchored on public confidence. Citizen investors must trust that the currency will preserve value, support saving, and facilitate reliable trade. Zimbabwe's economic history demonstrates that currency reform requires consistency, discipline, and broader stakeholder confidence. In this regard, Madam Speaker, government must ensure that conditions such as single-digit inflation, adequate foreign currency reserve, exchange rate stability, and policy consistency are achieved before transition into a mono-currency system. A premature transition may undermine the very confidence that authorities are working hard to rebuild. The nation therefore requires transparent and predictable roadmap guided by measurable economic benchmarks rather than rigid timelines. Madam Speaker, the third issue relates to bank charges and transactional costs. The committee welcomed the reduction in bank charges introduced by the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, including lower POS charges, reduced withdrawal fees, and the removal of balance inquiry charges. These measures are commendable because they promote financial inclusion and reduce the burden on consumers' businesses. However, Madam Speaker, the challenge lies in implementation and compliance monitoring. Many citizens, particularly those in rural communities and informal sectors, continue to experience high transactional costs that erode incomes and discourage participation in formal banking system. Small business also incur substantial operation costs through electronic transaction, thereby reducing profitability. Madam Speaker, financial inclusion is not merely about opening bank accounts. It is about ensuring that financial services are affordable, accessible, and efficient. There is therefore need for robust oversight to ensure that all banking institutions fully comply with the directives announced by the Reserve Bank. Affordable banking services are essential in deepening domestic currency usage and promoting a cash-elite economy. Madam Speaker, the fourth issue concerns the integrity and security of Zimbabwe's digital financial ecosystem. The committee raised concern over increasing fraud, cybercrime, and weak know your customer system among mobile network operators. As Zimbabwe increasingly embraces digital transaction and mobile money platforms, strong regulatory system becomes indispensable. Ghost wallets, elite financial flows, and unregulated nano loans not only expose citizens to fraud, but also weaken monetary control mechanisms and financial sector credibility. Madam Speaker, the directive requiring the screening of mobile wallets and strong identity verification system is therefore a progressive measure that deserves support. However, the measures must be implemented efficiently, transparently, in a manner that protects both financial security and consumer convenience. Madam Speaker, digital finance is now central to modern economic activities, particularly for ordinary citizens, small business enterprises, and rural communities. Strengthening cyber security frameworks, consumer protection mechanism, and regulatory oversight will therefore be critical in safeguarding public confidence in the digital financial system. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, The 2026 monetary policy review statement reflects commendable efforts towards achieving macroeconomic stability, controlling inflation, and strengthening the financial sector. However, sustainable economic transformation requires that stability be accompanied by affordable credit and strong public confidence in the monetary reforms, accessing banking services, and secure digital financial systems. It is my hope, Madam Speaker, that the recommendation of the committee will be fully implemented so that the country consolidates the gains already achieved, whilst simultaneously promoting industrial growth, investment, and employment creation, and improving livelihood for the people of Zimbabwe. I thank you, Talumba.
Thank you, Honorable Kangausaru. Next to take the floor is Honorable Madzivanika.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity that I got. Madam Speaker, let me try to put things into perspective. A monetary policy, Madam Speaker, is just the use of money supply, the use of interest rates, and the control of exchange rates for the purpose of ensuring that there is price stability, which is sometimes regarded as inflation, also to ensure that there is economic stability. Those are the two macroeconomic goals that the monetary policy seeks to control. So in its endeavor to control, or in its endeavor to achieve price stability, in its endeavor to achieve economic stability, the RBZ use those tools, money supply control, interest rate control, as well as the control of the exchange rate, to ensure that it aligns with the desired macroeconomic targets of any particular nation. So, for the year 2026, the monetary policy, the RBZ governor introduced the monetary policy statement, which at law is required to be produced 3 months after the fiscal policy, which was produced last year in December. So, the idea is to ensure that there is that congruence between monetary policy and the fiscal policy in a bid to achieve national economic objectives. So in this case, I would like to look at this monetary policy into two areas. Something which is commendable from the ministry, from the monetary policy, and something which is bad from the monetary policy. So I will start with the good, Madam Speaker, in the interest of justice. The first one is the removal of the 2030 sunset clause on the use of the US dollar. Initially, Madam Speaker, the RBZ introduced, RBZ introduced through the Presidential Temporary Measures Act to introduce SI 218 of 2023, which actually mandated the end of the use of the US dollar by December 2030. So, Madam Speaker, this policy, or this SI 218, it actually introduced panic in the market, to an extent that some financial banks or financial houses were now shortening US dollar denominated loans to 1 year, so that they try to mitigate the instance of a loss that may arise when the government gets to 2030. So it was also an attack, a direct attack on the loans or on the mortgages and other financial products which were designed already in US dollars and which were going beyond 2030. So this move to say government is now doing away or rejecting or jettisoning the 2030 sunset clause, I think it's a welcome development which needs to be hailed or commended. Madam Speaker, ma'am, let me also talk about another benefit, the removal of bank charge costs. The pegging or the capping of bank charges to around 2%, maximum of 2%, I think it's also a welcome move, Madam Speaker, because these bank charges had created a lot of problems with the generality of Zimbabweans. So the removal of these unnecessarily high bank charges actually will try to cushion users, who actually promote people to use financial intermediation than to shun it. Madam Speaker, there is also this inflation. We have already highlighted that the monetary policy agenda is to maintain price stability. And of course, we cannot hide behind the saying, when there is stability. Madam Speaker, whatever method is used to achieve that stability, it is still stability. So I want to commend RBZ for ensuring that the year-on-year ZIG inflation is now below 4%. I think it's commendable. Nevertheless, of the method that I've used to contain it, but stability is stability at the moment. Madam Speaker, let me jettison to the another good, which is the opening up of the economy to a 24-hour payment system. That was also commended by the Speaker, because the economy runs through and through. So the idea of ensuring that the payment system is open 24 hours, I think it's a welcome development. Madam Speaker, let me jettison to the bed. The first one, Madam Speaker, is the maintenance of the bank policy rate at 35%. No matter how much we try to justify it at whatever level, Madam Speaker, it is retrogressive. In what way? Under normal circumstances, Madam Speaker, normally the bank policy rate, let me explain what it is. The bank policy rate is the interest rate at which banks can borrow from the central bank. Banks can choose, when banks need SIG balances, they can go to the central bank, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, to borrow what is called accommodation. So when they get to the RBZ, they are accommodated at 35% to say whenever they borrow 1 million, they are supposed to pay an interest of 35%. That is too exorbitant. What it means, Madam Speaker, is that we are shunning away borrowing. So when these banks stop borrowing, the effect, according to Keynesian economists, is clear that when these banks cannot borrow money from the RBZ, it means naturally that there will be constrained liquidity in industries. Because normally most industries, they borrow money for day-to-day working capital. And that is the problem that we are seeing, Madam Speaker, in most of the companies that we have in Zimbabwe. They are suffering from a challenge of liquidity, of working capital. So as such a high interest rate, such a high bank policy rate will actually mean more and higher borrowing costs to these producers. Let me give an example. If the bank policy rate is 35%, it automatically means that the banks themselves, they also need to put a margin for them to lend out to industry. So what it means right now, the interest that we're obtaining on the market is about 46%. What we actually say is that please don't borrow. And let me put things into perspective. No company will borrow from banks, will borrow ZIG from banks at the current exchange, the current interest rate of 46%. What it means, Madam Speaker, if you look at all businesses that you can think of, they make returns or margins of around 20%. That is the normal profit that these companies are making. No reasonable company is making a return of more than 40%. But our interest is at 40%. So what it means, Madam Speaker, is that if you borrow, you are just borrowing into the drain because you're not going to recoup your investment. And as such, this is counter-progressive. Madam Chair, let me move on to the issue of ZIG. The ZIG right now is not yet fungible. When I'm talking about fungibility, I'm saying it must be easy for anyone. Whenever you go, for example, whenever you go to Zambia, you go to South Africa, and you've got a debit card with the ZIG balances, you must get into any shop, whether it becomes Edgar's or any other shop in the international in that international country, to swipe using ZIG, and there must be that automatic conversion between ZIG and other currencies. If it is something is costing $20 in Kwacha, I must use my ZIG debit balance in Zambia to swipe using ZIG, and there's that automatic fungibility to pay in my local currency. That is not happening, Madam Speaker, until today. Not only that, that is what is called international fungibility. There is also what is called domestic fungibility, Madam Speaker. We are boasting of having enough reserves for the ZIG. What it means is, if we are having enough reserves for the ZIG, it means that we can buy back the whole ZIG balance in the economy. So there is no fee for us to allow people to say, go to a bank. If you want to make a transaction in US dollars, you can go to a bank and exchange, get the US, make a payment. But you can do so, of course, with an invoice. We don't want to encourage speculation. You can also you want to buy an engine in Zimbabwe, you get an invoice, a quotation somewhere, you should go there with that invoice and you should get that money. That is not happening, Madam Speaker. Yet we are posting of reserves. So these are the issues that create the confidence gap that we so desire. Madam Chair, let me just on another issue. The issue of confidence. Yeah, I think we are miles away, Madam Speaker, to deal with this case. Yes, efforts are being made by the RPZ, but we are still miles away. Why should I say so? I say so, Madam Chair, because if you look at many people who receive ZIG balances, they quickly want to dispose that ZIG balance buying US dollars. And banks should do a research of what I'm saying. They will find that at the 99% level of confidence, they are very true. It's very true. The majority of people are still dispensing the ZIG. In other words, the speed at which the ZIG is moving from account to account is alarming. The velocity of the ZIG, it shows that instant speed within someone. Someone must be satisfied that they can transact with the ZIG anywhere else without necessarily rushing to change to US, not necessarily rushing to change to US. And this is also happening for corporates. So this kind of behavior, Madam Speaker, the behavior in itself, it is a testament to the fact that the confidence crisis has not yet been closed. I don't know what we can do as government to ensure that people become confident of their own currency. But this behavior is still evident in Zimbabwe. Madam Chair, to add on to this confidence crisis, you will find that when they are in the market, maybe for example for change, combis and whatever, those small transactions, if you buy those more using the ZIG, there is this time that whenever you want to buy, the exchange rate is 1:40. $1 is equal to 40 ZIG. That is what is obtained on the ground. But under normal circumstances, the exchange rate should be 1:32, even at the black market, using the RTGs or the transfer system. So this difference also explains this dichotomy, regardless of the fact that the RPZ brought in new notes and coins. We were supposed to have that situation whereby we converge towards the correct rate. So this also means that the people want to cover them. They want a bigger premium in case of something happens with the ZIG. Madam Chair, there's this phenomenon which the RPZ is doing on the banks. Let me give an example. If Bank A has got 350 million ZIG in its deposits, and Bank D needs ZIG, it has got 0 deposits, and the Bank C needs ZIG from A, these two banks are not trading in ZIG. Under normal circumstances, we must see these banks trading. The one which is an excess position must trade with the one with the short position. But that's not happening, Madam Chair. And when it is not happening, it must be up to the banks themselves. It must be up to the bank which is in an excess position to deal with the liquidity risk challenges that is associated with holding a lot of money. Unfortunately, Madam Chair, the RPZ, instead of leaving the bank to suffer the liquidity risk challenges, they actually went on to the bank with the excess and checked the money at 0% interest. When they check that money at 0%, they also go and lend to Bank C at 35% interest. What a huge contradiction. Madam Chair, that's a huge contradiction. Why? Because what is good for the goose must be also good for the gander. What is acceptable to person A must be acceptable to person B. The RPZ, instead of accommodating the bank, it allows do so at 35% rate. But when the RPZ is taking money from me, it doesn't give even 5%. That contradiction, I think it's clear that that's a heavy-handedness by RPZ must be removed from the market. It's no longer control, Madam Chair, but it's now innovation. Madam Chair, let me talk about the interest on deposits. We have seen, Madam Chair, that the interest on deposits, on savings deposits is now, for the ZIG, is now 5% per annum. And for the time deposits, now 7.5. What means, Madam Chair, is that if you put $1,000 in your account, at the end of the year, if you put 1,000 ZIG, at the end of the year, expect to get 1,005, if I did my math, or 1,020 ZIG at the end of the year. But look, Madam Chair, all the same time, if you are borrowing, you are levied or you are laden with 35%, yet you give me 5% on deposit. So what exactly is happening? Are you encouraging deposits or what? Yet when borrowing, the dichotomy is outrageous, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, there is this issue of NCDs, non-negotiable certificates of deposits. What is happening, Madam Chair, is If mining companies and other export companies, if they export their gold, for example, if they export their minerals, chrome, lithium, and so forth, when they are receiving their US dollars or from those countries, the RBZ is now retaining 30%, and then the company is having 70%. What then happens, Madam Chair, is the 30% which the companies surrender to RBZ is not paid directly to the company or the mining company as in hard SADC currency, but it is paid as a non-negotiable certificate of deposit. The idea by the RBZ is we are trying to control liquidity. But whenever you are controlling liquidity, you must also understand that this company needs to survive. So if you take 30% and don't pay them, give them a non-negotiable certificate of deposit at a coupon rate of 7.5% per year, I think this is likened to murder of these companies. Let's use, for lack of the appropriate word, it is murder, direct murder, because you are taking money that I'm supposed to meet my day-to-day expenses. You take it from this company, you don't pay them. You give them a paper to say, oh, this paper I'm going to give you after 2 years. And if, to make matters worse, Madam Speaker, those companies who are indebted at maturity, some of the companies, they go to the 2-year maturity of this paper. When they go back with the paper, the RBZ say, give us the money. They don't get the money. In actual fact, RBZ says, let's renegotiate again. Such policy must be taken away out of our financial system. We must have that culture of talking. We must not have the culture of big brother to say that I'm government, I'm the big boss. I can do whatever I want with you. I can take your money without any recourse. That must stop, Madam Chair. But however, the long and the short of it is that I personally support the report by the Committee on Budget and Finance on the monetary policy statement. I thank you.
Thank you. Further debate. I call upon Honorable Kaitano.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, ma'am. Madam Speaker, ma'am, a month ago I stood up in this House to give a point of national interest where I acknowledged the great work that the central bank in this country is doing with regards to maintaining economic stability as well as economic growth via the monetary tools available to it. Madam Speaker, ma'am, the 2-3 fundamentals that the central bank uses in order to control economic activities in this country include the use of interest rates, the provision of credit, the control of the exchange rate, as well as price stability. These tools are used in order to lower inflation, in order to attract investment, in order to also bring economic growth. Madam Speaker, ma'am, there is a direct and positive relationship between interest rates and inflation. The report presented by the Honorable Chair on Budget and Finance has indicated the work that the central bank is doing. It is a no-brainer, Madam Speaker, ma'am, that Zimbabwe for the past 16, 17 months has experienced price stability. I know it is a process. Where the central bank is coming from and to where it is going, they clearly showed it to us, Madam Speaker, ma'am, when they came and did the presentation. Some of us acknowledged, we saw the journey that the central bank is walking. from where things have been in terms of the monetary policy to where they are right now and to where the country is going. And that movement, it does not happen within a day. We know that our banking system in general has been suffering from confidence, from private individuals to businesses and to banks themselves. But the central bank has done quite a lot to restore credibility, to restore stability in the economy. Madam Speaker, ma'am, lowering or attracting savings into the banking system by increasing the savings rate is a no-brainer. It will help attract individuals, companies, into saving, into putting their funds in the banking system. And that should make funds available for investment. We believe the more members of the public, the more company direct executives have confidence in the banking system, the more people will channel their funds into the banking system, the more funds are available for investment. And this is what the central bank is doing. It has reduced inflation. My ZIG component of my salary here, it stays in my account. I don't even change it. It stays there because I know there's now stability. I use it for buying many things that it can, without its value being changed. Today, Madam Speaker, I was surprised. I got to KFC. I bought something, and the rate that they're using 28. I was surprised. I said, is the ZIG this stable? It is stable. I'm not surprised that this is a result of what the central bank has been doing in order to maintain the stability of the Zimbabwean currency. We should quickly mention this. Madam Speaker, ma'am, we do not wake up the next day and the whole of Zimbabwe has confidence in the system. It's a gradual process. When the central bank explained this to honorable members, we saw where it is going. When I am in the constituency and my people ask me about the stability of the ZIG, the monetary policy, the monetary aspects where this country is going, I assure them that the central bank is stabilizing things. And that helps public confidence in our economy. It is my submission, Madam Speaker, ma'am, that every Zimbabwean, in as much as we are not yet there where we want to be, and the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe acknowledges that. It is very cognizant of that fact. We should continue supporting them and urging them to continue maintaining that kind of stability, to maintain that tight monetary policy, to continue lowering the inflation rate, as well as also encouraging savings in order to make funds available for investment. And this is in line with the Vision 2030, as said by the President, that this country will be an upper middle income economy by 2030. That happens when there are available funds for investment and by encouraging interest rates to be paid on funds that have been saved by the Zimbabwean public. That will help us achieve that. Madam Speaker, ma'am, one thing that we have observed as I conclude is the policy consistency of the central bank. The new regime, the new leadership of the central bank, ever since they got into office, even before that, we could see that the predictability of the monetary policy is there. There were no, and there are no surprises to the market. Things are done gradually. The predictability still remains. And that has improved confidence in Zimbabweans and even among captains of industry. We need to commend the central bank for maintaining that policy consistency. It improves confidence. What my honorable members are saying, indeed, eventually, Rome was not built in a day. It's step by step, break by break, stone upon stone. Slowly but surely, we are going somewhere. And we are thankful to His Excellency for appointing such a team at the central bank that is taking us to somewhere as a country. So I really want to encourage all Zimbabweans to embrace what the central bank is doing and work together with them, supporting them. When we go back to our constituencies as honorable members, let's instill confidence in our people that the central bank is doing this. Of course, there are certain areas, it's work in progress, but by and large, we are on the right path as a country to developing this place, to develop this country and attaining Vision 2030, where we want to be an upper middle income economy by 2030. I so submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Further debate. I call upon Honorable Hiwaim.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank all the honorable members who have aired their views on this report. Honorable Khwachwayo, who has reiterated the need to revise the interest rate down, considering that it should align with regional peers. Honorable Komberi also applauded the RBZ for increasing ZIG availability, which has of course solved a number of liquidity challenges in the bucket. Honorable Madziva, in addition to applauding the work that has been done by the RBZ, he critically opposed the use of NNCDs, which I think is not murder nor daylight robbery, but a way to encourage banks to trade with each other rather than keeping the money idle. Then coming to Honorable Kaitano, echoed a passionate debate in support of the efforts by the RBZ, which is ensuring price and exchange rate stability, which is also a welcome move. Madam Speaker, I move that the motion be now adopted.
I put the question that the motion be adopted. Those who have that opinion say aye. Those of the contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is accordingly affirmed and the motion is adopted. Notice of motion number 20, Honorable Hiwaim.
I move the motion standing in my name.
Who seconds?
I second, Madam Chair.
I call upon Honorable Hiwaim to move his motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to present the report on the benchmarking visit by the Joint Portfolio Committees on Budget, Finance and Investment Promotion and the Public Accounts Committee to the Nigerian National Assembly. The Joint Portfolio Committee on Budget, Finance and Investment Promotion and the Public Accounts Committee undertook a benchmarking visit to the Nigerian National Assembly over the period 31 August to 6 September 2025. The visit was funded by AFDB under the TAEP program. The purpose of the visit was to gain insights into Nigeria's legislative oversight mechanisms, particularly in the areas of budget formulation, execution, evaluation, and public debt management. The Nigerian Parliament is a bicameral parliament, hence it mirrors the Zimbabwean Parliament, except that members of the Senate are elected through a vote. This report provides the delegation's findings, observations, and present specific recommendations. The Zimbabwean delegation comprised the following: Honorable Dr. Energy Mtodi, Honorable Caston Mateo, Honorable Clemens Chidua, myself, Honorable Lincoln Liwayo, Honorable Koban Madzivanyika, Ms. Elnyao, the acting deputy clerk, Mr. T. Gumbo, Ms. F. Manivi, Mr. F. Chadakuyenda. The objectives of the visit were: one, to understand Nigeria's budget cycle and the role of Parliament in its formulation, approval, and execution. Two, to examine the oversight functions of Nigeria's public account committees in ensuring that the Auditor General's recommendations are implemented. Three, to explore Nigeria's strategy for public debt transparency and accountability. Four, to identify the best practices that could be adapted to Zimbabwe's parliamentary processes. Coming to the methodology, the delegation met the Nigerian parliamentary officials, the Appropriation Committee, the public accounts, and support institutions. The methodology combined structured meetings and interactive discussions. The approach allowed members to engage with Nigerian parliamentary officials, committees, and support institutions through briefings, question and answer sessions, and study tours, focusing on the budget process, debt management systems, and oversight practices. Information was collected through official presentations, while a comparative analysis with Zimbabwe's context helped the delegation to pinpoint best practices, lessons learned, and reform opportunities to enhance fiscal oversight and parliamentary capacity at home. Moving on to the findings. Fiscal oversight committees in the Nigerian Parliament. The Nigerian National Assembly comprises two chambers, the Senate and the House of Representatives. The committees relevant to the benchmarking visit included Committee on Appropriations. The Portfolio Committee on Appropriations in the Nigerian House of Representatives has the duty to scrutinize and appropriate funds to various government programs and projects, review budget assumptions, and ensure fiscal transparency and accountability by holding executive officials responsible for budget implementation. This committee plays a crucial role in exercising the legislature power of the purse by examining budget proposals, engaging stakeholders, and ensuring the budget process is inclusive. The House Committee on AIDS, Loans, and Debt Management in Nigeria's House of Representatives oversees the nation's external financial obligations, including reviewing loan and aid agreements, ensuring responsible and sustainable borrowing, and advising the House on the economic implications of government debt. Its primary role is to provide legislative oversight on the accumulation and management of Nigeria's debt to promote transparency, accountability, and alignment with national economic goals. The committee noted that the House Committee on Appropriations handles the review and oversight of budget proposals and the passage of the appropriation bill. There is also the House Committee on Finance, which manages fiscal policy, revenue generation, and public finance. House Committee on AIDS, Loans, and Debt Management, which oversees external borrowing, loans, and debt strategy. In addition, there is also the House Committee on Banking and Currency that supervises banking policies, currency, and financial stability under the Ministry of Finance's purview. In Zimbabwe, the Budget, Finance, and Investment Promotion Committee covers all of the work that has been mentioned above. Coming to the Public Accounts Committee, both the House of Representatives and Senate have a Public Accounts Committee chaired by the opposition party that analyzes the Auditor General's report independently. In some cases, the committees conduct joint committees to iron out all gray areas as may be independently observed. The committee sits 5 days a week, allowing microscopic scrutiny of all MDAs in the Auditor General reports to ensure MDAs are accountable. The Public Accounts Committee of Zimbabwe is only in the National Assembly. However, to cover a lot of ground, it is privileged to meet twice a week compared to other committees that meet once a week. In Nigeria, the Public Accounts Committee meets on a daily basis with a view of covering all audited institutions of the federal government. Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs. The Portfolio Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs in the Nigeria House of Representatives is responsible for scrutinizing government policies and budgets related to national development and economic affairs. This holds the Federal Ministry of National Planning and Economic Affairs and other agencies accountable, and recommending legislation to improve economic planning and resource utilization. Its duties include investigating government policies, initiatives, reviewing and approving the budget, ensuring that economic development aligns with national goals, and gathering input from stakeholders to inform legislative decisions. The budget process oversight. The public consultation, the Nigerian Parliament rarely conducts public consultation, mainly because it serves 200 million people who are not easy to reach. The budget is largely informed by members of parliament through representative democracy. Furthermore, the federal government ministries conduct a needs assessment of the people before submitting budget proposals. It is believed that members of parliament understand the needs of the people more than government ministries. Hence, members of parliament are provided with the resources to facilitate constituent development. Nigeria's parliament plays a proactive role in budget scrutiny, with the Appropriations Committee leading detailed analysis of proposed expenditures. The Directorate of Legislative Budget and Planning, which is an equivalent of our Parliament Budget Office, provides independent and impartial analysis to support legislative decision-making on national development plans, medium-term macroeconomic framework, medium-term expenditure framework, fiscal strategy paper, and annual appropriations. Based on economic trends, global developments, and domestic challenges affecting the economy, the department analyzes the assumptions and provides the legislators with facts indicating whether assumptions are realistic or not. Budget analysis is done at the disaggregated level, MDAs, the sectoral level, and the aggregate level. Budget analysis does not solely rely on information provided by the federal government, but also on verified information and statistics provided by civil society organizations, the National Bureau of Statistics, and other recognized institutions. Moving on to the utilization of the unallocated reserve budget. The unallocated reserve budget, UR, is also a salient feature of the federal budget, which in Nigeria is referred to as the service-wide vote, SWV. Whilst in Zimbabwe, the vote is under the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion. In Nigeria, the vote is under the Office of the President and Cabinet. Further, the service-wide vote does not exceed 5% of the total budget. MDAs intending to utilize the SWV are required to apply to the Office of the President, justifying the reasons and the emergent circumstances giving rise to the need to use the SWV. At the end of each financial year, a utilization report is submitted for Parliament's consideration. In Zimbabwe, the unallocated reserve remains an amount which is not directly allocated by Parliament to a vote, but by the Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion. He is authorized to spend through the Appropriation Act. There is no limit in terms of the proportion of the budget that should remain unallocated. Moving on to the debt management oversight. In Nigeria, debt management oversight is done by the Aid, Loans and Debt Management Committee. All public borrowing should be approved by the House of Representatives. Such approvals are done when the President writes to Parliament, justifying the need for borrowing and indicating how borrowed funds will be deployed. The letter is considered separately by both the National Assembly and Senate and can be jointly considered in some instances. Federal states governments have the power to collect revenue but cannot borrow without Parliament's approval. Debt approval process. The debt approval process in the Nigerian National Assembly, comprising the Senate and the House of Representatives, is a critical component of fiscal governance, ensuring legislative oversight over public borrowing to promote transparency, accountability, and sustainability. The foundation for debt approval stems from constitutional and statutory provisions that bestow the National Assembly the exclusive legislative authority over borrowing and public debt. The Constitution grants the National Assembly power over borrowing of monies within or outside Nigeria for the purposes of the Federation or any state. It governs the Consolidated Revenue Fund and authorization of expenditures. All revenues, including borrowed funds, must be paid into the CRF, and no monies can be withdrawn without National Assembly appropriation. This indirectly requires legislative approval for borrowings that fund expenditures. The Debt Management Office advises the federal government annually on financing gaps and borrowing needs. This forms the basis of the National Borrowing Program approved by the National Assembly. No external loan is approved or obtained by the minister unless its terms and conditions have been laid before the National Assembly and approved by its resolution. The federal government can guarantee external loans, but only after terms are laid before and approved by the National Assembly via resolution. Any payments due under some guarantees are charged to the Consolidated Revenue Fund. Steps in the debt approval process. The process for domestic borrowing varies slightly from external borrowing, but generally involves executive proposal, legislative scrutiny, and approval. It integrates with the broader budget cycle. For external borrowing, e.g. from multilateral lenders like World Bank, bilateral loans, or Eurobonds, the Debt Management Office conducts debt sustainability analysis and advises the Minister of Finance on borrowing needs to bridge fiscal gaps. This includes evaluating terms for sustainability. The Minister proposes borrowings, incorporating them into the medium-term expenditure framework. The Federal Executive Council reviews and approves the proposal. The President forwards the request to the National Assembly, often via a letter to the Senate President and Speaker, detailing terms and conditions, purpose, repayment plan, and economic justification. The request is referred to specialized committees. The reports are debated in plenary sessions of each house. If approved, a resolution is passed. Contrary to what is obtaining in Nigeria, in Zimbabwe, the minister presents a borrowing plan to the National Assembly as part of the budget presentation. Once approved by Parliament, the minister can borrow contract loans without seeking Parliament's approval for each loan. Moving on to domestic borrowings, e.g. treasury bills via Central Bank of Nigeria. Borrowing is coordinated by the Domestic Management Office and Central Bank of Nigeria. Borrowings are included in the annual appropriation bill. Whilst this mirrors what is obtaining in Zimbabwe, domestic debt has also been accumulated through arrears to service providers. This feature is not found in the fiscal accounts of Nigeria. The National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies. The National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies is a statutory organ of the National Assembly of Nigeria, established by the National Institute for Legislative Studies Act of 2011 and strengthened by 2017 amendment, which expanded its functions to include broader democratic support. The institute operates through several departments and specialized centers. It runs training and induction programs for legislators, parliamentary staff, conducts policy and budget analysis. Through its research and policy divisions, NILS produces issue briefs, budget analysis, and fiscal projections that often include debt-related data. NILS also maintains centers dedicated to specific thematic areas such as legislative oversight on security matters and produces manuals. The work of NILS is especially relevant in the area of public finance and debt oversight, given Nigeria's current fiscal landscape. NILS also develops oversight tools and templates that debt committees use when questioning ministries, departments, and agencies such as the Minister of Finance. Visit to the Zimbabwean embassy in Nigeria. The delegation paid a courteous call to His Excellency the Zimbabwean Ambassador to Nigeria, Ambassador Ranga, who apprised the delegation on the security issues obtaining in Nigeria. Most importantly, the ambassador informed the delegation that the Zimbabwe embassy in Nigeria was provided with the land for embassy premises as well as land for ambassador's house. The delegation took time to view the sites where we witnessed the massive construction works taking place. His Excellency the Zimbabwean ambassador to Nigeria, Ambassador Ranga, apprised the delegation that the rental costs for the current premises are unbearable since they are paid 2 years in advance. The desire is to move to owned premises. However, there is a need for financial support to the tune of $2.5 million to complete construction work. Contractors were on site but were threatening to leave due to some delayed payments. It is therefore important that this matter is urgently considered to facilitate Treasury support, to facilitate Treasury budget support. Observations. All right. There are 2 PAC committees in the Nigerian National Assembly, one in the House of Representatives and another in the Senate. The 2 committees operate independently and sometimes form a harmonized committee only to clear out issues. 2, the unallocated reserve budget is kept at 5% of the total budget and there is clear procedure for how it is expanded. 3, after the budget presentation, it is important to conduct a retreat for conducting an in-depth budget analysis at vote, program, and sub-program level. The Public Accounts of Nigeria summon all MDAs in the Auditor General's report, leaving no room for deliberate exclusion of certain MDAs. There are specialized debt oversight committees in the Nigerian National Assembly, comprising the Senate and the House of Representatives, that provide oversight on the entire debt cycle, pre-borrowing assessment, approval, execution, and post-borrowing and monitoring. All borrowing at federal level and state level is approved by Parliament. Debt servicing is adequately budgeted for through the Appropriation Act. The federal parliament budget is the first line charge of the budget, hence parliament oversight is adequately resourced. There is significant progress on the construction of the Zimbabwean embassy in Nigeria, including the ambassador's house in Abuja, which requires final touch-ups. Recommendations for Zimbabwe. To ensure that the oversight work of Parliament is efficient, we recommend that the Parliament budget be the first line charge of the budget. We recommend that the Parliament establishes a debt oversight subcommittee that specializes and deals with debt issues. 3, the Parliament should consider a budget retreat where a thorough review of budget allocations is done at the vote program and sub-program levels of each MDA. The Parliament must put in place regulations for the utilization of the unallocated reserve, that is, kept appropriations to say below 5% of the total budget, and require the minister to seek authority to spend the UR. Introduce regulation to ensure that Parliament programs are adequately funded. PAC Zimbabwe must meet more than twice a week during adjournment to enable, even during adjournment, to enable the summoning of all MDAs in audit reports. Parliament must engage Treasury to release funds to facilitate the completion of embassy premises in Abuja. The Portfolio Committee on Budget, Finance and Investment Promotion, along with Public Accounts, to each have committee clerks assigned exclusively to their specific committees without serving any other committees. Conclusion. The benchmarking visit provided Zimbabwe's legislators with valuable insights into Nigeria's parliamentary practices. The exchange of ideas and experience is expected to inform reforms in Zimbabwe's legislature oversight, contributing to improved fiscal governance and accountability. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The question before the House is a motion by Honorable Liwell that this House takes note of the report of the Joint Portfolio Committee on Budget, Finance and Economic and Investment Promotion and Public Accounts on the benchmark visit to Nigeria held from 31st to 6th September 2025. Is there any debate? I call upon Honorable Matsivanyika.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wish to fully support the reports by the Chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, who were part of the delegates who went to Abuja, Nigeria, from the 31st of August 2025 to the 6th of September of the same year. I don't want to regurgitate the report of the Honorable Chair. What I want to do is to highlight 4 critical items that I think needs to be taken care of or to be emulated by Zimbabwe. The first one is that the Parliament of Nigeria, or the government of Nigeria in general, have realized that Parliament as a legislative authority of government, as an oversight institution of government, is so vital such that it deserves the first charge on the national revenue. This is exactly what happens in Nigeria. We are not saying the Parliament, when the Parliament gets the first charge, we are saying that the Parliament gets the bulk of what comes out of the consolidated revenue fund. No. But in terms of order, the sequence, if ministries, departments and agencies get money monthly, the order of payment starts with the Parliament in Nigeria. That is the order. So that will strengthen the oversight institution, which is so vital to ensure that national income is not abused. Madam Chair, let me talk about the issue of establishment of the debt committee. In our circumstance, we do have the Budget and Finance Committee, which is all-encompassing. But in Nigeria, they have what we call the Debt Committee, which is a subcommittee. So we actually try to say that may Zimbabwe also have that committee in place. For what reason? For the specific reason that in Nigeria...
Honorable Matsivanyika, Honorable Makumire, can you please go back to your seat? It's only one person who is allowed to be standing, the one who will be debating. Thank you. Honorable Matsivanyika, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was explaining the issue of debt, Madam Chair, to say the Parliament of Nigeria actually approves all debt, whether international or domestic debt. So in our country, Madam Chair, we are largely focusing on international debt. This House, Madam Chair, sits only when it deals with international debt. When it comes to dealing with foreign debt, if we borrow from Paris Club, if we borrow from the World Bank, if we want to borrow from IMF, from BADIA, from any other multilateral financial institution, that's when those loans are brought before Parliament for approval. Unfortunately, our circumstances right now, I have never seen a local or domestic debt being brought to Parliament to say we are coming to Parliament to seek approval for these treasury bills that we need to sell to Bank A, to Bank B, to Bank C. Can you approve Parliament because this treasury bills is at a coupon rate of 10%, 15% or so? So there is no such thing in Zimbabwe. But in Nigeria, it is so explicit that the Parliament must oversee domestic debt. So it is a recommendation to Zimbabwe to say whenever a government is contracting local debt, it must come to Parliament. Thirdly, the issue of the unallocated reserve. In Nigeria, the unallocated reserve, they call it the service-wide fund. The unallocated reserve is that is vote that we place for contingents. To say after we have allocated all these, we've made the allocations to Ministry of Health, Transport and any other ministry, we leave some money for a purpose of uncertainty in case there is a national disaster, there is an unexpected eventuality. That is what we call the unallocated reserve. So in Nigeria, they call it the safe white fund. In Nigeria, there is a legislation to govern this fund. In actual fact, this fund must not exceed 5% of the vote, the total vote of government. Unlike in our circumstance for 2026 national budget, we've set aside 18 billion out of the budget of the 273 billion, translating to about 9% of the budget. So there must be some regulation on this unallocated reserve. And the other difference is that in Nigeria, this unallocated reserve sits in the office of the president cabinet. It is only the president that actually authorizes the use of this money when there is need. When there is need. So there is a clear way in which this money is supposed to be disbursed. So I actually put it as a recommendation to say, as Zimbabwe, we can also adopt this kind of situation to ensure that there is transparency and accountability in the manner in which the URI is used. Lastly, Madam Chair, we have visited our embassy in Nigeria, and to be honest, Madam Chair, it was in a sorry state in terms of the development that is taking place. We've been told that the building was neglected for about 4 years. The embassy was not receiving funding to actually help to construct the building. They're actually renting out, and the cost of the rent house is plausible. It's too exorbitant as compared to having our own building. So it was our recommendation that as a committee, we wanted to ensure that if government can release something to ensure that the completion of our airbus is expedited. I thank you.
Thank you. Further debate. I call upon the Deputy Chief Whip.
Madam Speaker, I move that the debate do now adjourn.
Who seconds?
I second, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved that the debate be now adjourned. Is there any debate? I put the question that the debate be now adjourned. Those who have that opinion say aye. Those of the contrary opinion will say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is accordingly affirmed, and the debate is adjourned. What day?
To tomorrow, Madam Speaker, ma'am.
The debate is adjourned to tomorrow.
Madam Speaker, ma'am, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Who seconds?
I second, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved that the House do not adjourn. Is there any debate? I put the question that the House do not adjourn. Those who have that opinion will say aye. Those of the contrary opinion will say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is accordingly affirmed, and the House is adjourned. To what day?
To tomorrow, Madam Speaker, ma'am.
The House is adjourned to tomorrow.